Welcome to this play of an interesting airport app that I found on Android. It is very interesting looking and has a pretty enticing gameplay, as you will see. You will see that at the beginning I'm gonna go a little bit slower so that we can enjoy the sights, and eventually I'll accelerate it a bit so we can see a little more action. The main goal is to make sure that your passengers depart and arrive safely at your airport. And to do so, you've got the right. You got the departure board and arrival board at the right or the left, depending on how you see it. So there are a few settings that I had to organize better. One of which was the subtitles. Subtitles seem to slow down a bit the game. I'm not sure why. And I also took out the prevention of the 4 times acceleration, so that way I can accelerate the game even though there's different events happening. I guess at the beginning it's good to have it enabled so that you can have a look around a little more, but pretty quickly you get the hang of it, at least I did in my case, and then you don't really want to have the slowdown between each actions. Like at the moment you see the departure, usually I put it at the higher speed because it's a little bit long. The in between events are a little long once you've learned the basics of the game. And the secondary goal is to get enough credits to buy new gates. That way, the more gates you have, the more planes you can manage and the more money you make in the end. And eventually open up maybe the last airport that seems to have some sort of emergency scenarios. I'm curious to see that. And so this is one takeoff. You can see inside, I think, with the crew. Okay, it's too far away now to see that. So we're waiting for the next event.
90585 ready to dispatch. 90585 cleared for dispatch. 918 is on final runway 27. 918 cleared to land runway 27.
And so we've got 2 events at the same time this time around, so not really in conflict with each other. And the last goal is to make everything go as fast as possible. That way you make more money.
585, ready to taxi. Niner 585, roger.
So that means managing which plane goes where, ideally the closest to your terminal. That way they park sooner and they leave sooner, usually. And getting a feel for what's happening without having to look at each airplane is key, because that way you avoid a lot of unsafe situations.
Niner 1, Niner 8, taxi to the gate.
So now I'm gonna choose B3 because it's closer to the airport, to the central hub of the airport. A1 is the farthest. It's one of the free opened at the beginning, so obviously they gave you the less interesting gate at the start, so that you eventually figure out that you have to avoid that one unless you want to manage better your departures on the B terminal. The B terminals are B1 is closest, and on the A terminal, A1 is the farthest. So it's good to remember the locations of each terminal. That way you can decide where to bring them and try to bring them as close as possible, unless you know another airplane is going to be ready in this general area. Then you could send the other one at the opposite section, and that way you can manage more airplanes at the same time.
585, ready for takeoff, runway 27. Niner 585, cleared for takeoff, runway 27.
Alright, so that's gonna be my three main events. I'm gonna fast forward it after this departure so that you see a little bit of the rapid gameplay. It's medium
1301, ready to dispatch. 1584 is on final, runway 27. 1584,
it's a medium
clear to land, runway
stress
27.
game, which is you can leave it slow like this. It's not really stressful, especially at the beginning when you have less terminals. Once you get more terminals, then it becomes a little more hectic because you're getting confused sometimes with which airplane is where on the timer.
1301, ready to taxi. 1301, roger.
And I think they make it on purpose that your board is not exactly does not exactly fit in your screen, so sometimes you get
1584, taxi to the gate.
you get airplanes that do not show and are waiting.
1301, ready for takeoff, runway 27. 1301, clear
So
for
I've
takeoff,
chosen
runway
A2 because
27.
A2 is closer than A1.
1584, roger.
It's a slight speed increase, I believe. I'm not sure what I'm saying, but that's what I've noticed. And at the same time, the section B is free to move around at the same time.
Roger.
So this is an interesting game to watch. It mimics pretty much real life, except for the little locks spinning on top of some of the airplanes. Those are the terminals that you can buy. My next one is at 4,000 credits, and I'm hopefully gonna try to open every one of them as soon as possible. That way I'm gonna be able to open the last airport sooner to see what the emergencies are, if it adds an interesting aspect to this, because it's pretty good. I just find that it's repetitive after a while. Of course, the goal is to be confusing at some point and also make them some money. So I'm expecting that people will really enjoy this kind of puzzle game, if we can say that. We'll probably want to get new skins for the airplanes, probably their country's airplanes, because I know I've got Air Canada in there, but I can also okay, this is a sign that I've made a landmark or a goal that saves my level, and I've seen weather change when I arrived at level 9, so I'm guessing that eventually at different levels you get different kinds of events, I guess, because I've never seen weather before. So once you learn the
7777, ready to boost back. 347.
the basics of it, it becomes rather intuitive for the things you need to do.
6001, clear for takeoff, runway 27. 8942, clear to land, runway 27. 7777, roger.
It's nice that they've got different style of voices. I find it a little odd though that I'm not sure if it's just because I'm not familiar with every call signs and things like that, but they seem to be, in this case you see A3 was closer than B4, B4 was farther away. I chose A3. I'm not sure if normally some of the text should have been said by the tower instead of the pilots. I'm not sure, but that seems a little odd to me. It would be nice if we could add either the tower chat or maybe have an option to add our own voice where we would repeat the different basic line of text from the tower, and that the tower would say them. That way when we listen to what's happening, because the chatter delays, we'd know who's talking exactly. And or maybe they could add an option that prevents chatter to keep on going once you've got overlapping chatter, because the inconvenience is sometimes you get confused because you hear something happening which already happened a while back, and then you try to plan or figure out what's happening exactly, especially on the landings. If you hear the landing late, you might worry that you're gonna hit, or on the other band width, it would be the risk of sending a plane before because you didn't hear that it was landing. See, now I'm waiting for the other plane to clear the runway. I'm doing the pushback. And this one wants to go, should be able to go to B without problem. Oh, let's see, we've got rain. It's raining. So this is the second time I see rain. Doesn't seem to affect the way things work at the airport. I would expect maybe some slowdowns, or maybe there's slippage in the airports that have emergencies. So all in all, it's a pretty well made simulation of real life, I find. Hopefully it teaches us a little more about what's happening in real life, because it's pretty close. The visuals seem to be accurate from a tower, from the perspective of a ground crew. And now all of my gates are full. So that normally gives more possibilities of having departures, which brings in more money on each level change. I think it's like a save position. When you gain a certain level, you have a save function that prevents you from going back. See, now I could have had an accident. Those are the caveats of having a lot of gates. You have more chances of getting confused. Lucky for me, it was obvious. I always put priority on landings, and I always tell them to land because there seems to be some sort of automatic go around function, and that seems to, if you see, I've got a 0 on 1 on top, which means that, oops, I made a little mistake there, I sent it farther. That means that if you do too many of them, I've got one chance. If they turn around twice, then I get in trouble. I lose the progression on the level. So I try to avoid turnarounds. I prefer to always tell them to land and manage the rest around that. That seems to be key. And sometimes, for instance, when they're in a row, the airplanes seem to manage themselves well. They will stop and not crash. But if you back them up, they won't manage themselves and they will crash. So now I've got A3, which is closer. What's interesting is you can do other stuff while they are moving around, and just listen to the chat. The only risk is this final, when you get somebody landing. Oh, I get another level. When you get somebody landing, if you miss, or if the chat is late, because that seems to happen a lot, because the other chatter wasn't completed, you hear them late, they're trying to land, and you have only a few seconds before that they go around. Oops, see, I've made a mistake. I made a mistake, I'm gonna crash. Oh well, that's a pretty good example of what not to do. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.